In the first of our Katrina Chronicles series, we interview E.G. Warren. E.G. is a veteran insurance agent boasting over 50 years of invaluable experience. He reflects on his early days in the insurance industry along the Mississippi coast and candidly shares the personal and professional hurdles he encountered in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. His story is a powerful testament to the resilience and fortitude of a community ravaged by one of the most destructive storms in history. Now, despite his humility, E.G.'s narratives reveal the staggering challenges he faced. The interview kicks off with a brief history of E.G.'s journey before diving into the chaotic aftermath of Katrina. E.G.'s office was transformed into a vital hub for the exchange of information during those difficult times, offering essentials like water and clothing, and served as a connection point to the entire community. E.G. is one of the many heroes that shined through during the dark days of Katrina's aftermath. Tune in as E.G. chronicles the daily struggles he and the community endured. This is Kevin Peterson. Welcome to Weather Heroes. Well, E.G., welcome to Weather Heroes. We're so glad to have you here.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for asking. So, E.G., how does a person become an agent, a long-term agent along the Mississippi coast?
Well, I think you have to have in your heart, in your mind, the desire and wanting will to help people, to have the empathy to know kind of what their need and help them put on paper and in writing what they hope to take care of to protect themselves from disasters.
Have you always lived in Mississippi?
I was born and raised in Mississippi. I was born in the Delta.
Okay.
I lived up there for 21 years, married, moved to the coast at age 21.
Wow. Okay. So you're a long-term resident of the coast. I'm assuming from there you got involved in some business stuff, but at some point you said insurance is a way to perhaps provide some of those needs as well as help satisfy some of your need to help people.
Yes. I almost finished my degree at Delta State in Cleveland in Vietnam War about politics in 1969.
Okay.
And I enlisted in the reserve to attempt to finish my college degree before going to the military. And that didn't happen. But I got married and dated my first wife. I was wife for about 7 years. We knew we were going to get married, so we just did and moved to the Gulf Coast. She had a teaching job in Long Beach, Mississippi, next door to Gulfport. That's what brought us. So we moved here. You know, I always been fascinated by automobiles, and I got a job selling cars, Volkswagens. That was right after Hurricane Camille.
Mm-hmm.
About 8 weeks after Camille, and of course they bought a lot of cars back then. So it didn't take much to get into that business and start selling cars, and I did that for almost 5 years. I kept looking for something that I wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel every month, except for my brief time in the military and working through college. I've been on commissions all my life, and I knew in 5 years in the car business, every month, I don't care how good you did the month before, you had to start over the next month. So I was looking for something that had some sort of a basis where it would continue to build and grow. And that's when I came in insurance. I enjoyed the car business because it satisfied people transportation. And it was kind of fun to do that. But I felt the drawing for insurance, and particularly casualty and life insurance, because that satisfied a lot of people's needs. And that's what I was looking to do.
So you went through Hurricane Camille in 1969.
No, I was on active duty in Redstone Arsenal, Alabama.
Okay.
Camille, we'll put on notice. My wife was supposed to move here the day Camille hit, and they delayed her. Wow. So she came down about a week later, and we married 2 months after that. I came into the aftermath and saw what Camille had done, and it really got my attention as to opening my eyes about the insurance business and the need for people to have insurance. And that's kind of what interested me in the whole insurance career.
Wow. So that's really interesting. So the largest hurricane to hit Mississippi since then, probably in the history, one of the largest in the United States, Camille in 69. And we're going to work our way to Hurricane Katrina and your experiences there. But before we do that, what year did you become an insurance agent?
I started what they call a scratch agency, 1174, January 1st, 1974, in Gulfport. What that means is they gave me a rate book and a pen, basically, and some paper applications back then, and said, good luck, basically. We had a small draw, a very small draw. It wasn't enough to make a living. So I started a scratch agency then, and that was 50 years ago this year. We just completed 50 years in insurance business.
That's really amazing. You also got involved in, at some point, into local leadership. Tell me a little bit about that.
I guess because of my background in being in the community, living here, owning property here, dealing with a whole lot of people here, I was asked to serve on several different boards and eventually appointed to boards within the city that required zoning and approval for building and that sort of thing. And poured into a lot of political stuff that way. And at the same time, was put into quite a bit of church work. And those instantly paralleled and correlated to where it all got back to, what the community thrives and lives on. That's how I got into the political side of it.
And E.G., I had met you, I believe, gosh, maybe Hurricane Katrina was 2005, so maybe in the year 2000, perhaps around.
Yeah. Before then, yeah, at least 5 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, and had always admired all of you coastal agents there. And as I look, and I was thinking about somebody with Katrina experience, so I really wanted to focus on you about that. So, you've got this Hurricane Camille experience. Now, you've probably gone through some tornadoes and some other types of disasters before Katrina, but now you're much more involved in the community. You've got a lot of hands and a lot of responsibilities in there. Talk to me what it felt like, both as an insurance agent, as a homeowner, as a husband, a property owner, as a business owner, as a local leader, as you were looking at Hurricane Katrina heading y'all's way?
Well, that brings back an awful lot of memories. In my career, I wish I'd kept count, 7 to 8, 9 different hurricanes that have affected the Gulf Coast. In a hurricane, your biggest issue besides the winds and the birds, awful lot of the damage areas on the northeast quadrant of the world, the storms. So on some of those, we were out of the northeast quadrant and not concerned, but were still affected by them and had various claims, but none that Katrina challenged us with. We knew to evacuate. My family, my son was already out of state. My daughter was out of state school. My oldest daughter happened to be with us, and we escaped to Pensacola Beach, and then from there went on to Dothan, Alabama, just to get out of harm's way, because I knew it was important that I be here, but had to be in the storm. At some point in time, you make the decision to protect yourself and your family, not be worried about unlocking the door the next day and the phone ringing the next day. Anyway, we evacuated there. We came back the second day after Katrina. I drove into the Gulf Coast, kind of having some idea maybe what to expect, but no visible signs of what to expect. And when I first went to my home, obviously, we had bought some cleaning material, some bleach and some rags and some mops and some brooms just to kind of sweep things out and clean them up. Lo and behold, we pulled in the home and discovered that we had almost 6 feet of water in a one-story home. Now, when you walk into that 6 feet, there were 2 broken windows in my home, which is where the water came through. One of the back sliding door, the other was a front window, a big picture window in a dining room area. But the water got in there, and literally, as my wife puts it, looked like a washing machine. And when we walked in, stuff was all over the place. Now, that water is salt water, bio water, backup water of sewer, backup oils from automobiles, gasoline. So it's just needless to say, not habitable. Personally, from the homestead, what we basically did is we just gutted that house. When you walked in my door, all you saw was 2 before studs, and we had to go in there after we got things out of there, had to go and rip the wood flooring out. We had to go in there with pressure washers and wash everything down to get it clean and get all the bacteria and things out of there. After that, you got it nice and wet with a pressure washer for about 3 days of pressure washing. Get all that out of there. Then you got to come back and dry it out when you don't have power. So we're trying to get the thing cleaned out with only generator support. Anyway, to make that story brief, we had to dry it out. Then we had to finally put chemicals on there to clean it. And to keep mold and mildew from coming inside there. And we just locked it down and shut it down for, I guess, 60 to 90 days before we tried to do anything with it. So first of all, we saved a few pieces of furniture, but literally at that point in time, Donnie and I have been married for 45 years and dated for, like I said, about 7 years before that. We saw our life in a pile of rubbish on the other side of the street. Just put it over there and stacked it down. I remember she had them come by with a little forklift and had them lifted up to retrieve a couple of her iron skillets that have been passed down through the family for years that she remembered. But anyway, I saved a few pieces of hard furniture, got them refinished. But outside of that, that piece was, it was just not having a home, a place where you felt safe and secure at night. We'll come to the office, and my insurance agency, we had about 3,800 claims to deal with no power, which means the telephone doesn't work. When you have a disaster like that, your cell phone does not work in the daytime because FEMA and MEMA take over the system. The only time we could do anything was after 11 o'clock at night. You could get a text out, something like that. So we are with no place to live. My sister-in-law from Tennessee brought down a travel trailer, and we parked that in our front yard. It was a fold-down travel trailer with a little air conditioning in it. And it slept 7 people. And we slept 7 people in that thing every night in my office parking lot. You know, just trying to deal with the aftermath of 3,800 claims. I guess about 1,500 of those were automobile claims, which, by the way, were all settled inside of 60 days. But from the casualty side, for people, the hardest thing they have to deal with is recovery from their home and or their business, but primarily their home, because they need a place to sleep and be comfortable and be safe. Trying to get those things done was quite challenging. What most of the people don't understand is, no matter how hard we work on what we do, we can only do so much in a day. You can only do so much in a week and so much in a month. So catastrophes take time. And from our perspective, what we look at is, on a day-to-day basis, is it aggravating or devastating? Well, you think of Katrina as devastating. Overall, it really is. But compared to having a stroke or being disabled or death, it's just really an aggravation. It's a big aggravation, but it's one that's solvable. So trying to deal with those people and deal with their needs, help them with my team at the office, trying to handle them with no power, no electricity, paper stuff moving around and about. We've come a long way in the industry with technology to offset some of that stuff. But knowing that most of those claims, you figure 3,800, they're going to require 8 to 9 touch points to get them settled. That means they call us, we set it up. The adjuster calls them, doesn't reach them. They call back, what's my adjuster number? I can reach my adjuster. He was supposed to be here. He was late. He wasn't here. What's happened? You know, I get the estimate. My estimate is not what needs to be done. Well, how do we do that? So you go back, you work through all that. And it's just a process that the public, the policyholder, does not understand because they never had anything that large, the largest ever in history in the United States, and they just take time to work through all that. By the time we eventually get them paid and get their money, and their home payment for damages has the lender's name on there, so they have to sign off on it. You got to make that contact, go through there. So it's pretty overwhelming for an insurance team to get all those claims settled and done in the aftermath with no air conditioning, no heat. One last thing, we'll move on. I literally had, with all my stuff in my home gone, I took just a small bag when I went to Pensacola Beach for a couple of days to avoid the storm. For, I guess, almost 3 weeks, what I had was, I think, 2 swim trunks and a pair of shorts and about 4 T-shirts.
Wow.
And I had CNN in my face. I had the weather people in my face. They would cover the story, obviously. And it seems like every time I turned around, they had to wait for me to wring out a T-shirt and put it on home
Wow.
to talk about what was going on. So anyway.
But you're being very humble though here a little bit, EG, because you're talking about, we had 300 claims, and you're really focused on the customer, which is so awesome. But you also kind of that the challenges that were logistical, like no gas, no phone, no power, no housing, the dealing with the heat, dealing with people trying to get there, travel was very limited. You had people, fighting for the same resources. A lot of those were challenges that you guys were going through.
What we learned is we learned to barter. And, that's what people did a long time ago. When somebody would grow this, somebody have that, they bartered. And it became so evident with what little bit we had. I remember we had a piece of 4-by-8 sheet of paneling that we had set aside, and the guy was hauling trash, and we needed it, and we swapped it to him for 5 gallons of gas. Because he was trying to haul trash. But you're right about that. You're just trying to get the basics done, the basic need. That was one of the things we learned as an agent. Is when we were dealing with people, they would come in here just distraught. I mean, sunburned, undernourished, What they needed was something to eat and water and a hood, believe it or not. But that they would come to us because we were open. So many things were not even open, wasn't even a doorway. We just threw our watches in the drawer and left them because there was no time. It was day and night. And from the time we woke up in the morning to the time, people would still be coming by here to see us at 8 and 9 o'clock at night in my office. But it became a hub. My office became a hub of distribution for people who needed water or ice or anything to eat. Nabs, peanut butter. It's just you can't. I think you can't visualize the what the basic needs are in life until you lived it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no refrigerator. It's all gone. Everything's just out there and gone. So, and the stores aren't open. And even if the stores are open, you have to make real good use of what your resources because there's only so much fuel. My brother-in-law farms in Tunica County, about 6 hours away. From his farm, he pulled down a fuel tank, 450 gallons of gasoline, and he farms about 9,000 acres. And he came in with a AK-47 in his front seat and a pistol because I told him to protect himself.
Yeah.
When he came to Jackson, the highway patrol, he told the highway patrol who was going, 2 guys standing there. He said, "We'll cover you till you leave." Literally, he pulled that thing down here. When he got here, we immediately had to powder behind the fence and stuff to get it there. But we used that and, gave it to as many people as we could as they needed it. But we went through that about 3 days, maybe, getting people from out. And, we were using that not just to go places and do things, but, for generators. Just to keep the generator, to get a fan going at night so they could lay on the ground and get a nap or something.
Unless you've experienced that. I remember after Hurricane Andrew, we went through some of that. And unless you have, it's really tough to understand.
One of the things that when I think back on it, I looked at one morning, I don't know what time it was. Like I said, it was day and night, so on time we had back then. And it was early morning, I'd say roughly 9 o'clock or so. I looked up and there were about, I guess, a dozen people standing in my parking lot together, just kind of chatting in a huddle, trying to get. We became the news source for the community. We became the heartbeat of the community because we were here. We had the doors open, and we slept in this office at night on the floor. Some slept in here. Some buddies came down to help me, and they would sleep inside the office on the floor with no air conditioning. We got a fan off the little generator we had. But anyway, people came here for information about what was going where, what to do as far as where's their water today?
Right.
Are there any K rations? Where are they today? What can you do and what can you have? But there were people who from all walks of life. It didn't matter what they did for a living. It could be a guy that I had insured that was running $15,000 or $20,000 a year, or a CEO of a company and a bank president.
Yeah.
They were all the level playing field.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody needed everybody. And it's a very humbling experience. And I was impressed with the way people were just so resilient and just came with whatever they had to share with everybody.
Really, it gives you a good feeling about humanity right after those disasters when everybody's pulling together. So,
but also, I think about this. Through my family friends throughout the southeastern part of the country, because it was drivable, we ended up with one of my back office looked like a clothing store. People had sent everything they had in their office, shirts, shorts, shoes, old tennis shoes, nice enough, but we had nothing. So when people would come in to look for their claim, we would take in the back. So what do you need? And they would literally go in and pick out 1 or 2 items. They'd take advantage of the situation. They would say, my child could use this, or my friend could use that. And literally they'd leave here with a bottle of water, a K ration, maybe a mint, a little piece of chocolate candy, and a pair of shorts, and maybe 2 gallons of gas. It was, thinking back, those memories are just long ago, but they were just yesterday at the same time.
We're coming up in 20 years next year since Katrina.
Yeah.
It does seem like it just happened, though, to me as well.
Yeah. And, we became, you were in the middle of it with us. You got the brink of the whole thing, all of them, not just from me. But what we learned early on was we asked people what we could do for them now. What can we do? What do you need? What do you need today? And I mean, we had people here who would put somebody in the car and take them to the hospital for a tetanus shot.
Wow.
I had a lady walk in my office her skin was copper, the color of copper. She had been gotten some sort of a bacteria infection, and from the back of the water had been in that water for 8 hours, and I'll never forget the color of her skin. And we just put her in a car and took her to the emergency room. I said, she didn't realize how bad a shape she was in until somebody looked at her and said, "You need help." Now, fortunately, at the time, my son was a firefighter in Cumming, Georgia. And of course, he had a pretty good idea what had happened. And his fire chief had 5 firefighters loaded up and sent them down here to help us do whatever they could do. And of course, all those guys are first aid trained. And I mean, they were, giving bacteria shots from tetanus, and they were wrapping bandages around people and band-aids and cleaning wounds and checking blood pressures. And it looked like a little hospital around here, really.
Kind of looked like an emergency room, a bit of a war zone. You were an information hub, a food hub, a care hub, and handling people's claims, helping them through that process.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
One last thing I was thinking as I'm talking to you, and I'm thinking, when we get through talking, you're going to get up and go to the fridge and get a cold bottle of water or Diet Coke or ice tea. None of that. It's not there, And what we had is another buddy of mine bought 2 55-gallons of drums of water on a trailer and put it down here. We used that water to flush the toilets in my office. With no water, you can't shower, you can't drink. So what we had to do, somebody had water duty for 4 hours. And what they had to do, you go get that water, go put it in the back of the toilet. When somebody needs to use the bathroom, we have 2 bathrooms in my office. That person had to go back and put water back in the closet of that toilet just to make it flush. Sanitation becomes such a huge, huge issue with all that.
Oh my God, yeah. And that's assuming that at that point that the sanitation is even working at the main level.
Yeah. It was on the 4th, I think the 4th day, my wife's sister was down here. My wife's sister and a friend went to our house, which was, this, as I said, not not habitable, but it was late in the afternoon, almost dark, and the water finally came back on, 4th or 5th day. And they took the water hose in my driveway and got as undressed as they could and washed each other with the water after 4 days of no shower. So you can imagine what kind of state we were in sanitarily.
Yes, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, people don't, I tell you, no ice, no water. I mean, all those things, it is a war zone in many ways right after that. It really is.
Yeah, and your body continues to function. You got to have a place for the bathroom. You got to have water and bread.
Yeah.
You got to have something to eat. But where does that come from? Your food in the refrigerator is boiled. So is it canned stuff, most people thought far enough ahead to get water in the box, but all of them didn't. And it goes so fast. You don't realize how much water people drink in a day's time until you don't have any.
Oh, this is so true. But then you realize how much you need. And the other thing, a lot of people who might have stored away supplies, or those supplies were washed away. A lot of stuff that people thought, oh, I'll have this afterwards. Water surge itself was so large that this washed away that you thought would have been there. Housing, a lot of the hotels were stay there. So getting people in and to help, having a place to stay, that was such a big challenge.
Yeah. 3 quick things. When you look at the beachfront on the Gulf Coast after Katrina, I just think to remember, it looked like someone had taken an arm and just pushed everything back 2 blocks. Just slabs, nothing there was doing. It's hard to believe how that could tear up so many houses and so many things, but just push them back that far. And you're talking about the war zone. I remember one night I was outside trying to get my phone to work. No way to charge it out except through a generator. Trying to get my phone to work to get a message out, and it must have been near 11 o'clock. And I could hear pop, 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 pop. And and I said, I know it's a helicopter, but I don't know where it is. There was a tractor trailer rig coming down the front of my office here in Pass Road with fuel, a tractor trailer rig of fuel. It had a high patrol escort front and rear. two military vehicles with machine guns on them, two Jeep type things, front and rear, and the helicopter with the lights on it, escorting that fuel. They were getting it to the Navy base, which is a mile and a half, 2 miles down the road, because the Navy had to have their fuel to do their stuff to help the recovery effort.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was, here it is 11 o'clock at night. Everybody should be asleep, but that stuff was so valuable, they couldn't have it stolen. So the police escorted it down through there. And as I mentioned, we had the little pop-up camper out front, and that's where we set up shop. We're trying to use the grill and grill food and keep nourished and that sort of thing. But we had, after we'd finally got to sleep one night, two different occasions, we had people try to break into the unit for whatever they were looking for. And we literally had to take them down and pin them down and wait for the police to come get them and take them away. So anybody who came to help us, I told them it might be smart to be ready to protect yourself.
That's so true. I remember after Andrew, a lot of people were parked out in front of their houses with their guns, camping out. Though they couldn't live in the house, they were still parked out.
Yeah. One of my sheriff policyholders came by here and he said, "E.G., we know your home was underwater. Probably all your weapons and stuff were destroyed. We brought you a rifle and a pistol." I'm in the sheriff's department. And he said, and what he said is, consider yourself deputized. You've got military background. You know how to do this. We know you'd be smart about it. But they just wanted people to be able to protect themselves from what people are looting, and they take advantage of those.
The less good side of after a big cat like that, big disaster. So all these challenges, e.g., from a personal standpoint, professional standpoint, but you're still involved in leadership at the local level there too. What type of responsibilities were you being pulled into there at all?
A lot of that stuff we just had to put on hold. I'd be contacted about stuff from time to time, but Kevin, when I was away, there was somebody in my place. I mean, when I turned, there was another person there, and that they needed to see me about whatever it was. It was just I didn't have a lot of time to go sit down in meetings and that sort of thing. I did, I guess, as much or more for the church and what they needed at the time as anything. But I just kind of skipped meetings and took a kind of a time out. They would call me to ask me things. Never any lengthy meetings, or certainly not any out of town meetings.
Yeah, imagine. So think about all those things, and you're being pulled in a million different directions, and you're trying to learn as you go. You look at it, Katrina, and you had to do it again. Anything that you would have prepared better for, you'd have done different, knowing that it's going to be just like that?
I think what I was not prepared for was the amount of devastation I encountered personally. And with my policyholders and my clients, my friends, a lot of those people came back to a slab. I mean, all they had was a slab. What I would do different, I think, is the folks that I'm in constant communication with, I would lay the groundwork for them to make sure they were completely prepared for whatever. Enough food to last you for a week or two, that sort of thing. But I guess among all things would be the mental prep. Just be prepared not to have air conditioning. Think about that. That's something you can't practice. You don't want to practice. Just to be prepared for what they face.
I don't think a lot of people realize that if Katrina was to hit again, as much as time has gone by, 20 years, not a whole lot would be different. I mean, it's so devastating.
No, there wouldn't be. Fortunately now the building codes have changed tremendously, and I think a lot of wouldn't be quite as many homes partially dead. If it's bad enough heat, it's going to take them out. I don't care how good they're built. But I see the building codes are strong enough to make a lot of difference. And I think of Homestead, Florida, when that thing ripped through there many years ago. They didn't have building codes to mount anything then. They just, everything was on the ground down there. That's when I think first I learned about a GPS, because I think the adjusters involved in that were using GPS to figure out where the house was supposed to be if they're going to look at the claim, and there was nothing there but a lot. The technology today, I could do so much with my phone today that I couldn't even think about doing back then. And you look at things like the battery life of the phone is probably 3 or 4 times what it was back then. It's not going to run down as quickly. You got the hands-free power rechargers, where you can plug it in, and so that can make a lot of difference when your communication is such a big factor when something like that happens.
Yeah, cell companies. I was talking to a cell phone guy, and he's telling me that they've got a lot more robust plans to respond, mobile units, things like that. Plus areas that have been hit, they worked pretty hard at hardening the towers and such to make it recovery quicker. But there's still, like I said, no matter what, there's still always towers that get hit, damaged, destroyed. That no matter what you do, it's still going to be challenges. And we've seen that even in recent storms. Like 20, 21, 22.
We just think about everyday life, and think about, Kevin, if you just put your phone down for 3 days and didn't touch it.
Oh yeah.
and just how different that would be. Now, imagine everything's torn up and there's no power, and then you put your phone down for 3 days and can't touch it. Now you really, it just kind of puts things in perspective. So if they can get that piece worked out where they can keep from the FEMA, MEMA, the feds, the military, all those people is overriding our communication system, it would help the individual people a lot better.
So since Katrina 20 years ago, I know you guys have had additional storms, and I guess from the learnings of Katrina and looking at those storms, anything that you'd want to share with the listeners about how they can better be prepared or what they should be thinking about?
As far as I guess, again, I got my insurance mind working today. I think it's awfully important to say, I don't know, when you change your clocks on your birthday or whatever, just do a little check of, are there any cracks in the concrete? Are there any pitfalls? I like to think of myself, what I sell is pothole covers. Whatever the pothole is, it could be anything, life, health, disability. It could be a office, it could be a fast food. If there's a need there, we take the pothole to cover it to keep people from falling in. I would encourage them to look at anything they have that could be devastating. Number one, loss of life, disability, stroke, bad health claim, expensive health deal, assisted living, and then look at the devastating things. And, the things they probably design by pretty quickly be auto and home. Look at the deductibles. Look at the endorsements. We just had a little earthquake in Mississippi, North Mississippi, just last week. We've had 2 in the Gulf of Mexico in the last 2 years. People may not realize they don't have earthquake insurance. Well, look at it. It's a pothole. You want it covered or not? You want it covered? Call your agent. So just to kind of protect ahead of time things that could cause that. Getting a backup battery for your phone, backup charger. Have a couple of those. Keep them charged, because on disasters, I'll think about the people that don't get warnings for tornadoes. For earthquakes. We get a warning about a hurricane. I could run and I could hide and get away from this thing. And I chose to do that and come back so we could be 100%. I would just be mentally, just try to visualize that situation and put yourself there and, what do I need to do? Cash on hand, banks don't work, ATMs don't work. So what are you going to do? You're going to barter. What do you have that I need? So
that's a great point. If somebody's getting a check, there's no one to cash it. How much did that help them, right?
That's right. And that's the reason the barter. I keep going back to that. But you can have cash, but if the stores don't have power, and they allow them, the service stations to begin with that here, they had the fuel but couldn't pump it because they had no power to pump it. You can have cash and it might not be any good. Outside of bartering, cash is the best thing to have available. Hide it somewhere, put in a safe deposit box, whatever. It's always, I think, smart to have that on hand for whatever.
Well, E.G., any final words of wisdom? Shared so many good stories and so much good advice.
Yeah, no, I think that we have grown from those experiences. I have learned to appreciate the little things in life, the simple things in life. When you kind of looked at everything you've worked and saved for about 40 years, piled across the street, and the city's about to haul it off, you just say, what now? How does this work? But, we still had each other. We still had our faith. We still had our community. We still had our friends. That's the one thing we need to cherish every day.
E.G., thanks again for joining us today. And you're a great weather hero.
I don't consider myself a hero. Experienced, yes. I've paid my dues and had my bump, and still don't hear to tell about it. So
listen to all those stories of you helping people and just the community that you built after that around your office. Well done, sir. Well done.
Thank you.